Have you ever looked around the dinner table and felt like a stranger in your own story? Maybe it happens in small ways, when you laugh at a joke that hurts a little, or stay quiet when your heart wants to speak. Maybe it's in the silence that follows a disagreement, or the way your dreams get folded away like old clothes, out of sight but never forgotten. We're often told, family is everything, and yes, there is deep truth in that. Family can be warmth, memory, belonging, but what if sometimes that very love is what keeps us tethered to pain we no longer need to carry? What if, in honoring the people we came from, we slowly abandon the person we're meant to become? You see, love is not supposed to shrink us. It's not meant to mold us into silence or duty or guilt. True love allows us to breathe, even if the air feels unfamiliar. Tonight I invite you to walk gently beside me through a reflection many of us hold quietly in our hearts, the quiet, trembling question: what if setting boundaries isn't a betrayal, but a beginning? We'll explore 5 ways we often tolerate pain in the name of love, especially within families, and how through mindfulness and compassion we can begin to reclaim a kind of love that liberates rather than limits. This isn't a call to cut people off. It's an invitation to return to yourself softly, honestly, without shame. So take a breath, let the noise settle, and let's begin. Part 1. When love feels like a cage. There's a woman I once knew, let's call her Helen. She was in her 70s when we sat across from each other in the soft afternoon light of her kitchen, hands wrapped around warm mugs, the silence between us speaking as much as the stories. She smiled often, but it was the kind of smile that looked like it had practiced for decades, polite, composed, quietly aching. Her children visited often, called her dutifully. "I'm lucky," she would say, and yet, just beneath her voice there was something unspoken, like a note in a song that didn't quite resolve. Helen had spent most of her life trying to be everything for everyone, a loving daughter, a loyal wife, the kind of mother who never raised her voice, never wanted too much. But in the stillness of her later years, what she carried was not peace, but exhaustion. Not bitterness, but a soft, persistent ache, like a bird that had forgotten how to fly. She told me once, half jokingly, "Sometimes I wonder if anyone really knows me, or just the version of me they needed." And that question, it stayed with me. You see, it's not uncommon to live a life full of love, yet still feel invisible. It's not uncommon, especially for those of us who were raised to be agreeable, gentle, dependable, to mistake self-erasure for compassion. We give, we accommodate, we bend until we forget the shape of our own hearts, and in many families, this kind of giving is praised. It's called virtue, it's called duty. But if we're honest, really honest, does it always come from love? Or does it sometimes come from fear, of conflict, of rejection, of being told we're not enough as we are? In the teachings of the Buddha, there is a word upekkha. It means equanimity, a kind of inner balance, not coldness, not indifference, but a peaceful knowing that we are not responsible for the suffering of others. We can love deeply and still understand that we are not here to fix or carry someone else's pain. The Buddha once said, "You yourself must strive. The Buddhas only show the way." Even in the most intimate of bonds between parent and child, between siblings, spouses, lifelong friends, each soul must walk their own path. But what happens when love is used, even unconsciously, as a leash? When the words sound like affection, but the undertone is control? "If you loved me, you'd call more. Why are you so distant lately? I did everything for you, and this is how you repay me." These words don't always come with malice. Sometimes they come with tears. But that doesn't make them any less binding. They tug on our guilt, our sense of debt. They wrap around our choices like soft ropes, not loud, not violent, but strong enough to pull us away from our own center. And here's where the Dharma offers a mirror. True love, metta, is not possessive. It doesn't entangle. It says, "May you be well," not "make me well." It says, "I see you," not "be who I need you to be." Have you ever paused to ask yourself, when I say yes, am I choosing from love or avoiding disapproval? When I stay silent, is it kindness or fear of being misunderstood? There's a parable in the Pali Canon where a monk asked the Buddha how to deal with his aged father, who demanded more and more of his time, constantly criticizing him for leaving home to follow the path. The Buddha replied, not with instruction, but with a gentle truth: the path of awakening is not walked by proxy. Compassion is not servitude. Love, when clung to, becomes suffering. So if you felt that weight, that subtle pressure to play a role that no longer fits you, know that you are not alone. Know that the voice inside you, the one that whispers, "There must be more to me than this," is not a sign of selfishness, but of awakening. Love should not cost you yourself. It should not silence your song. If you have been asked in the name of family to shrink, to suppress, to carry emotional debts that were never yours to begin with, may you find the gentle courage to return home, to your own heart. And so this brings us quietly into the next thread in our journey, a thread woven from a deeper ache, the ache of not being allowed to fully be who you are. Because sometimes the greatest heartbreak is not in being unloved, but in being loved only on the condition that you stay small. Part 2. You are not the keeper of their pain. There is a story told in the old temples of northern Thailand. The kind of story passed down not through books, but through the hush of twilight conversations between student and teacher. It goes like this. A young novice, barely past childhood, asked an old monk why the master never seemed troubled, even when others brought him sorrow. The old monk smiled and pointed to a large ceramic pot beside him. "Every time someone hands me their suffering," he said, "I set it down right here. I can sit beside it, offer tea, listen if needed, but I do not carry it inside. It is not mine to hold." I've returned to that image many times, especially when speaking with those who, like you, may have carried the weight of others for far too long. Perhaps it started in childhood. Maybe you had a parent who confided in you more than they should have, made you their little helper, their little healer, long before you knew what healing even meant. Maybe you learned to be the peacemaker, the quiet one, the one who held the family together through whispered reassurances and swallowed tears. And maybe, even now in your 60s or 70s, that pattern continues. You listen to the burdens of your grown children, your siblings, your spouse. You take on their grief, their regrets, their anger, sometimes without them even asking. You do it out of love, or perhaps out of a deeper habit, the belief that your worth is measured by your usefulness. But here's a gentle question I'd like to offer. At what cost? In Buddhist teaching, there is the concept of compassion with wisdom, karuna, guided by clear seeing. Compassion does not mean enmeshment. It does not mean dissolving into another's pain like sugar in tea. True compassion says, "I see your suffering, I hold space for it, but I do not lose myself in it." There was a woman I met during a retreat in Mendocino. She was in her late 60s, gentle-eyed, with a voice like soft rain. During a group reflection, she spoke of her adult son, who struggled with depression and addiction. For years she tried everything: therapy, support groups, late-night calls, financial rescue after financial rescue. But no matter what she gave, it was never enough to fix him. And slowly, without realizing, she had stopped tending to her own garden. Her health faltered, her friendships faded, her joy disappeared like mist in morning sun. She wept when she spoke, not out of anger, but out of sheer depletion. "I just want him to be okay," she whispered. "I don't know who I am anymore without this pain." And I remember the silence that followed. It was the kind of silence that holds the weight of many lives, The teacher at that retreat, an elder monk with eyes like still water, said something I will never forget. You are allowed to set down the torch. It is not your job to keep someone else's fire from going out. That teaching, like a bell in a quiet temple, still echoes in me, because so many of us, especially those raised with strong cultural or family values, believe that love equals sacrifice, that we must keep pouring from our cup, even when it's long been empty. But the Dharma reminds us, you cannot offer peace to others while your own heart is in chaos. Let's be honest, guilt often creeps in here, doesn't it? Especially when the person needing help is someone you love deeply. A parent, perhaps, who's grown old and bitter, or a sibling who always seems to be struggling, calling only when in crisis. It can feel cruel to step back. But I invite you to consider this. Is it more cruel to abandon yourself over and over again? In the Metta Sutta, the Buddha offers this line, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all beings. But the sutta does not say, become the child's breath, become their legs, their decisions. The teaching is rooted in fierce, boundary-aware love, love that holds space without becoming space, love that recognizes the sacred boundary between self and other. So if you've been carrying someone else's sorrow, if you've made yourself a home for their storms, I want you to know this. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to say, I love you, but I cannot heal this for you. You are allowed to be whole, not as a savior, but as yourself. The truth is, healing cannot be outsourced. Each of us must walk through our own fire, cross our own river. You can walk beside someone. You can light the path, but you cannot carry them through the flame. And as we turn now toward the next part of this reflection, we begin to look at the deeper wound that forms when we are not only asked to carry others' pain, but to erase ourselves entirely in the process. Because sometimes the real heartbreak isn't in holding another's sorrow, it's in being told, time and again, that who you truly are is somehow not enough or far too much. Part 3. Shrinking yourself to be loved is not love. In a quiet monastery nestled among pine trees in the hills of Oregon, I once sat in a small circle of retreatants, most of them older, silver-haired, soft-spoken, carrying not just meditation cushions, but decades of life behind their eyes. During one session, a man named Robert, in his early 70s, spoke up, his voice as fragile as paper, yet weighted with something heavy. He had lived most of his life as a husband, a father, a provider. I don't think I ever lived as me, he said. I just tried to be who I was supposed to be. He looked down at his folded hands, and I don't even know who decided that. That confession stayed with me, not because it was unusual, but because it was heartbreakingly common. We are born radiant, whole, carrying in us what the Buddha called Buddha nature, the quiet flame of authenticity, the capacity to awaken, to be real, to be free. But as we grow, that light is too often dimmed, not by cruelty, but by conditioning. Sometimes it's parents saying, "Don't talk like that, it's embarrassing," or "Why can't you just be normal like your cousin?" Sometimes it's teachers who praise us only when we conform. Sometimes it's society itself, whispering what's acceptable and what isn't, in the way we dress, the careers we choose, the partners we love, even the silence we keep. Slowly, imperceptibly, we begin to trim parts of ourselves to fit into boxes never meant for us. We learn when to smile, when to nod, when to agree, even if everything in our chest is shaking with no. We become fluent in the language of adaptation. We mistake survival for belonging, and over time we forget the sound of our own voice. There was a woman I met named Claire. She had grown up in a deeply religious household and spent most of her adult life in a role that was never hers, married young, 3 children by 30, living in a town where deviation from the norm was considered rebellion. She loved her family, but deep inside, she felt like a ghost. She told me, during a walking meditation one autumn, "I've never worn the colors I love. Isn't that strange? Just beige, navy, gray. What does that say about her life?" I remember looking at her jacket, plain, stiff, too small. I imagined all the years she'd worn it like armor, and all the versions of herself she'd folded into it. In Buddhist thought, there's a powerful concept called anatta, the teaching of non-self. It doesn't mean we're empty or meaningless. It means we are not fixed. We are not the roles we play or the stories others write about us. We are rivers, not statues. We are change, and in that change is our truth. The Buddha never asked us to become someone else. He asked us to see clearly who we are, and then to live from that clarity with compassion. But how can you be compassionate with yourself if you've been told, directly or indirectly, that your truth is too loud, too soft, too strange, too wrong? Sometimes people we love deeply, especially family, become frightened by our freedom. When you begin to speak honestly, or live differently, or simply stand taller in your truth, it unsettles those who have grown used to your smallness. They may say, "You've changed," but what they mean is, "I can no longer control who you are becoming," and that scares them. But ask yourself this: should love require that you shrink? Should it ask you to cut your soul into pieces just to fit into someone else's comfort zone? The Buddha said, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." That peace often comes from saying the word no, no to roles that no longer fit, no to shrinking, no to silence that suffocates. And sometimes it means saying yes, yes to color, to laughter, to choices that don't make sense to anyone but you, yes to rediscovering what your own joy feels like. This is not selfishness, this is sakha, truthfulness, one of the 10 perfections in Buddhist practice. It is the courage to live in alignment with what is real inside you, not what others want from you. I want to gently ask you, when was the last time you did something simply because it felt like you? Not for approval, not out of obligation, just because it lit a little candle inside your chest. Because here's the truth whispered softly like a chant under moonlight. You were not born to make others comfortable, you were born to be whole. And as we walk from here into the next part of this reflection, we arrive at a more subtle mask, one that looks like concern, feels like love, but stings like judgment. Because sometimes the voice that breaks us isn't yelling, it's cloaked in advice, in warnings, in concern that cuts. And that's where we turn next. Part 4. Criticism disguised as care. It often begins with good intentions, or at least that's what we're told. A parent says, "I'm only telling you this because I care." A sibling warns, "I just don't want you to make the same mistakes I did." A well-meaning relative leans in, voice low, almost tender, and says, "That path you're on, are you sure? I just worry about you." At first, these words can sound like love. They wear the soft clothing of concern, and to a weary heart, they may even feel comforting. But over time, you begin to notice a pattern. The words don't uplift you, they don't invite reflection. Instead, they settle in like tiny stones in your chest, heavy, sharp, accumulating silently. I remember a man I met at a day-long retreat in Santa Fe. His name was Daniel, in his early 60s, newly retired and uncertain about what came next. He had dreams, long shelved, quietly breathing under the dust of responsibilities, to paint, to travel, to spend time by the ocean. But every time he voiced them, his older brother would say, "That's foolish at your age. You'll regret wasting time like that. Be smart." Daniel would laugh it off, say, "You know how he is." But there was sadness behind his smile, the kind of sadness that comes from internalizing someone else's fear, and calling it wisdom. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha teaches, one is not wise because one speaks much. One who is peaceful, loving, and fearless is truly called wise. Yet many people mistake criticism for guidance, mistaking noise for clarity. The truth is, criticism that wears the mask of concern often carries projections, shadows we refuse to face in ourselves. Have you ever noticed how some people always predict your failure, especially when you dare to follow your joy? That's not always about you. It's about the part of them that never allowed themselves to take risks. Their own dreams may have died quietly, and your freedom unsettles their grief. So instead of looking inward, they speak outward. They wrap warnings around their wounds and hand them to you like heirlooms. And if we are not mindful, if we are not deeply present, we begin to absorb those messages. We begin to doubt ourselves, to question the voice within. We learn to second-guess joy, to mistrust the moments when we feel truly alive. We call it humility, but often it's just a learned silence. A woman I once taught, her name was Elaine, shared something that broke my heart a little. She said, "I don't share my ideas anymore. My sister always says I'm being unrealistic, so I keep them to myself. It's just easier." Imagine that, a soul blooming quietly in the dark, because every time it reached for the light, someone called it naive. From a Buddhist perspective, this is a subtle form of craving, not for things but for control. When people criticize you under the guise of caring, they are often craving certainty, predictability, familiarity. Your growth challenges the narratives they've built to feel safe, and so they use concern as a tether, pulling you back, not because they want to hurt you, but because they don't know how to sit with their own discomfort. But here's the quiet truth: you do not owe anyone your silence in exchange for their comfort. You are allowed to speak, you are allowed to shine, you are allowed to make choices that make sense only to your heart. That is not arrogance, that is sati, mindfulness. That is the practice of living truthfully, with eyes open and heart soft. So what do we do when we are faced with constant subtle judgment from those we love? Do we fight? Defend? No. In the Buddhist way, we return to presence. We breathe, we observe, we set boundaries, not with anger, but with clarity. One practice I often return to is simple but powerful. When someone offers me advice I didn't ask for, I listen, truly listen. Then internally, I ask myself, is this rooted in love or fear? Is this about me or about them? Is this truth or just old pain wrapped in language? If it's the latter, I set it down gently, like placing a stone by the riverside. I don't need to carry it with me, neither do you. And now, dear friend, we turn to the deeper wound that lies underneath so many of these interactions, a wound that often wears a sweet face, one that whispers of sacrifice, duty, love. It is the quiet voice of guilt, the kind that bends your choices, silences your joy, and convinces you that you owe your life to someone else's pain. Let us walk into that next truth with care. Part 5. Guilt as a tool of control. There is a kind of love that whispers, "I only want what's best for you." But beneath its surface, if we listen carefully, we might hear a different message. "I want you to choose what makes me feel safe." And so we are pulled gently by invisible strings, not by open demands, but by the soft and persistent weight of guilt. I once sat with an elderly gentleman, a retired school principal named Thomas, during an afternoon mindfulness circle in a quiet Zen center near the Sierra foothills. He had spent his whole life doing what he thought was right, staying close to family, putting everyone's needs before his own, sacrificing opportunities so his brother could go to college, so his mother wouldn't feel abandoned, so no one would call him selfish. "They never asked me directly," he said, looking out at the pine trees swaying in silence, "but I could always feel the should. I lived with it like a second skin. And when I asked him what he might have done differently if he hadn't felt so guilty all the time, he paused for a long time, then said softly, "I think I might have lived." That silence, that ache behind his words, is something many of us understand. Because guilt doesn't always roar, it creeps. It cloaks itself in the language of love. "After all I've done for you," or "you'd break my heart if you left." It's subtle, disarming, even sweet at times, and yet it binds us in ways that fear alone never could. From the perspective of the Buddha's teachings, guilt is not the same as moral responsibility. In fact, the Pali Canon does not emphasize guilt the way modern culture does. Instead, it speaks of hiri conscience and ottappa, wise fear of consequences, both rooted in awareness, clarity, and compassion. Guilt, especially the manipulative kind, is reactive. It's tangled in ego. It says, "You are wrong simply because I feel hurt." But here's something to reflect on. Is it truly wrong to choose a path that brings you peace, even if someone you love disagrees? Is it cruel to grow, to change, to seek spaciousness, even if that makes another person uncomfortable? Or is it perhaps an act of deep wisdom, the kind the Buddha spoke of when he encouraged each person to walk the path for themselves, not for the approval of others? There's a story I once heard from a Thai forest monk about a bird who built its nest too close to the edge of a cliff. Every day it would worry about the wind, flinch at every gust, hover anxiously around its chicks. One day, the wind did what wind does. It shifted suddenly, and the nest was lost. The bird, devastated, spent days circling the cliff, but in time it flew inland and built a nest farther in, among sturdy branches. When asked why it hadn't moved earlier, the bird said, "I didn't want to disappoint the cliff. So many of us live like that bird, tethered to someone else's edge, afraid to move inward because we don't want to let someone down." Maybe it's a parent who reminds you of the sacrifices they made, or a child who makes you feel guilty for needing rest, or a spouse who calls your boundaries cold. And so we stay close, too close to old expectations. We build our nests on unstable ground and call it duty. But the Dharma offers us another way, the middle way, neither running from love nor being consumed by it. We can honor others without abandoning ourselves. We can say, "I love you," and also say, "But I must walk this way now." We can acknowledge another's disappointment without carrying it like a burden strapped to our spine. I once guided a meditation for caregivers, older adults, mostly women, who had spent their lives caring for everyone but themselves. During the closing reflection, one woman broke into tears. "I thought love meant never saying no," she said. "But now I see, maybe real love means saying yes, yes to my own breath, my own body, my own becoming, and I think that's the heart of it." Guilt tries to convince you that your healing is a betrayal, that setting a boundary is an insult. But from the Buddhist path we know true compassion begins within. Just as a lamp cannot light another without first being lit, the Buddha said, you cannot bring peace to others while denying it to yourself. So if you felt torn, caught between the desire to live authentically and the fear of causing pain, I invite you to consider this. Perhaps the most compassionate thing you can do for yourself and for them is to stop performing, to stop shrinking, to stop apologizing for the quiet truth of who you are. Let them be disappointed. Let the heart grieve if it must. But do not confuse that grief with wrongdoing. You are not cruel for choosing clarity. You are not selfish for stepping out of guilt's shadow. You are not broken for wanting joy. And so we come gently to the final veil, one that many of us carry unknowingly, the belief that verbal or emotional harm is simply how they are, that disrespect, when wrapped in familiarity, should be tolerated in silence. But love, true love, does not bruise, it does not mock, dismiss or diminish. And in our final reflection, we will look at how to recognize the difference. Part 6. Verbal and emotional abuse normalized as that's just how they are. I once sat under a banyan tree with an old Buddhist nun in Southern California, during one of those quiet retreats where time seems to stretch like the breath, long, soft, unhurried. We had been talking about suffering, the way it sneaks into our lives not only through catastrophe, but through repetition, especially the kind that's familiar, predictable, almost expected. She looked at me, her eyes steady, her hands folded like small stones in her lap, and said, "Some people mistake familiarity for love, but even poison, if you drink it long enough, tastes like water." Those words hit something deep, because for many of us, especially those who grew up in environments where shouting, belittling, or emotional withdrawal were common, there's a kind of numbness that takes root. You stop noticing that it hurts. You stop questioning why your shoulders tense when a certain person enters the room, or why your voice softens into nothing when a certain tone is used. And when someone from the outside says, "That's not okay," the answer often comes quickly, almost reflexively, "Oh, it's just how they are." But here's the quiet truth. Repetition does not make something right, and familiarity does not equal safety. There was a woman named Marta. I met her at a lay sangha in New Mexico. She was in her early 70s, graceful in the way of someone who has weathered many storms. She shared how her older sister would often insult her during family gatherings, always with a chuckle, always followed by, "Relax, it's just a joke." But it wasn't a joke. It was a blade, dull from use but sharp enough to draw blood. Year after year, Marta laughed along, told herself she was being sensitive, until one day she simply didn't want to attend anymore. "But that would make me the bad one," she said, "the dramatic one." She looked down and then quietly added, "But I'm so tired of making myself small so someone else doesn't have to grow." In Buddhist psychology, there's the concept of vasana, deep-rooted mental impressions, patterns shaped by past experiences that continue to influence our reactions. When emotional or verbal harm is repeated over time, it can become part of our vasana, shaping how we see ourselves, how much we believe we're worth. It's like carving grooves into the mind, and the longer we stay, the more natural the groove feels, even if it's digging into us. The Buddha never taught that we must remain in places where our dignity is stripped, even subtly, even by those we love. He encouraged compassion, yes, but also wise discernment, panya. He spoke often of right speech, one of the steps on the Eightfold Path, which includes not only the words we speak, but also the words we allow to enter our hearts unchecked. If someone speaks with cruelty, even in softness, even in jest, and we do nothing, we become vessels for their unexamined pain. Have you ever found yourself saying things like, "It's just their way," or "They don't mean harm," or "They're from a different generation"? These statements may hold partial truths, but they are also shields we use to justify the wounds we no longer have the strength to question. Because the alternative, recognizing that someone we love is causing us harm, is too painful to admit. So we call it normal, we call it tradition, we call it not that bad. But the Dharma asks something deeper. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If the answer is no, then perhaps the most compassionate act is not to continue enduring, but to bow gently and step away. There's a story told in the Jataka tales, the stories of the Buddha's past lives, about a deer who was friends with a lion. At first the lion was protective and warm, but over time his temper grew cruel. He would growl for no reason, criticize the deer's gait, mock his voice. The deer, afraid of losing the friendship, endured it, until one day the deer stood still and said, "Even if your teeth never bite me, I bleed each time your voice does." And with that, the deer walked away, not out of hatred, but out of love for his own breath, his own life. And so, dear one, I ask you gently, what voices live rent-free in your mind? Who told you that you were too much, or not enough, or somehow always wrong? And do they still have a seat at the table of your heart? You do not have to remain loyal to someone's unhealed wounds. You do not have to translate cruelty into care. You do not have to accept harm simply because it's familiar. The Buddha did not call us to martyrdom, he called us to awakening. Let your voice be heard again, not in anger but in truth. Let your presence expand again, not to prove anything, but simply to take up your rightful space. And if anyone, even family, asks you to dim your light to preserve their comfort, may you remember this: true love does not fear your wholeness, it welcomes it. So we arrive now at the final breath of this reflection. We've journeyed through the subtle prisons built in the name of love, manipulation, suppression, guilt, criticism, and normalized harm. But the path doesn't end in resentment, it ends in release, in softness, in spaciousness. Let us gather these stories like stones set down by a riverbank, not to throw, but to remember. May you walk away from this not hardened but lighter. And most of all, may you walk toward yourself. Conclusion. You are not meant to live in someone else's shadow. Let's pause here for a moment, not to analyze, not to explain, but simply to breathe. If you've stayed with me through this quiet journey, then perhaps somewhere along the way something stirred, a memory, a feeling, a long-held truth, gently rising to the surface like a lotus blooming through still water. We began this reflection by asking, what if setting boundaries isn't a betrayal, but a beginning? And now perhaps the answer has become clear, not as an idea, but as a felt sense deep within your bones. You were never born to be small. You were never meant to shrink just to be loved. In the Dharma, there is no concept of deserving or unworthy. There is only seeing clearly, seeing how suffering arises, how it's fed, and how it can be released. The Buddha didn't ask us to carry the past like a weight around our neck. He asked us to observe it, to learn from it, and when the time is right, to set it down. So if you've been carrying the burden of someone else's pain, if you've dimmed your light to keep the peace, laughed at jokes that hurt, said yes when your heart whispered no, know this: you can stop. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to be soft without being stepped on. You are allowed to be kind without being controlled. You are allowed to love others without losing yourself. This path, the path of quiet wisdom, is not about rebellion. It's not about building walls or cutting ties from bitterness. No, it's about walking home to yourself with tenderness. It's about saying, I matter too, and perhaps for the first time, truly believing it. A boundary is not a wall, it is a gate, an opening through which love can enter, not through guilt or fear, but through honesty and mutual respect. The ones who truly see you will understand. The ones who don't may never understand. But still, you must walk your path. As the Buddha said, no one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. So tonight, if there's a quiet voice inside you, a voice that has been silenced for years, for decades even, I invite you to listen, not to fix, not to fight, just to listen. That voice is not your enemy, it is your beginning. And if this reflection has touched something tender in you, something true, then take this as a gentle invitation, not a demand, to honor that voice, in small ways, in slow breaths, in steady sacred steps. You don't need permission to become whole, but if you've been waiting for a sign, let this be it. May you walk gently through your days, not in the shadow of someone else's pain, but in the warm light of your own becoming. Until we meet again, may your peace be rooted, your presence be full, and your heart finally your own.